you probably haven't seen before. Have you ever seen standard deviation before? No. Okay. So your average, whether you're talking mean, median, mode, you're more or less kind of talking where is the middle or whatever. So standard deviation and variance are about how spread out data is away from the middle. So variance is kind of the same thing. So your mean or median is about where's the middle. Your standard deviation and variance are about how spread out is the data away from the middle. So before we actually talk about how to compute it, let me just draw you a couple pictures. So let's say you had, this was your data. You have like nothing and then all of it's, here's the mean right here. It's all right there in the middle. This would have a very small and basically standard deviation. Basically, your standard deviation would be very, very, very close to zero. Right there. Right. Kind of a more typical picture is something like that. So here's your mean. So standard deviation is, I don't know, whatever. It's like, it's something, it's a little bit bigger. If you have a uniform distribution, so something like that, then, okay, here's your mean. But on average, the data is kind of not as close to the mean, so standard deviation is like 3 or something. I'm just completely making these numbers up, but just to give you an idea how the pattern goes. Whereas if I had something like this, where there's a whole bunch of people, and then maybe a few, and then, okay, so my mean's like somewhere around here, and standard deviation is like 10 or something. I mean, it's because the data is really, really far from the mean on average, right? Okay, how do we compute it? Let me tell you how to cheat first, and then I'll tell you what Excel is actually doing, and then you'll understand why we cheat. So let's just take a really simple, okay, let's I have like 4 windows open. Let's close 2 of them. Okay, apparently it quit responding to me. All right. Let's do everything. So let's just take a few numbers. Let's go 10. Okay, let's make it as easy as possible. 12, 13, 14, 15. Let's stop at 14. Okay. So to do standard deviation in Excel, well, there's 2 types of standard deviation. There's for the population and for the sample. We're going to mostly be doing sample. So stdve.s. S is for sample. Just highlight the numbers and then hit enter. Easy, right? If you, so it's stdev.s. The S is for sample standard deviation. Actually, let me take out the equal sign. That way you can. All right. This is this is for cancel. I don't know what I did. This is for sample standard deviation. All right. If this happened to be the entire population instead of just a sample, then the formula is actually a little different. But again, Excel does it for you. Just go stdev. But instead of .s for sample, you put .p for population. So this is stdev.p. Notice the population's a little smaller than the sample. It's always going to be a little smaller. Ooh. Where did we go? Okay. The reason for that, well, there's a few reasons for that, but for this class, it's like, well, when we have a sample, we think, hey, maybe we got a bad bunch. The real population might be a little bit more spread out than we think it is. So we kind of put a little fudge factor in the formula to make the number bigger. If we know it's the whole population, then we use the other formula and it always comes out smaller. So finding standard deviation is really, really easy in Excel, isn't it? Do you want to know what Excel is actually doing? I'm going to show you anyway, because I want you to appreciate how wonderful I'm making your life by telling you you can use Excel. Okay, so this is what it actually does. We're going to do this by hand since I picked easy numbers so that it wouldn't be too terrible, but it's still 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Step one is you find the mean, which you'll probably guess is 12. Okay. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to find how far everything is away from the mean. I mean, that's what standard deviation is. You're supposed to say, on average, how far away are you? So this one is 2 short. This one's 1 short. This one's 0. This one's 1. That one's 2. Okay. Whoa. That one went away. Okay. If I average those numbers right there, what do you think I'm going to get? Well, yeah, you're going to get 0, right? Because you add them all up. They add up to 0. So in order to get around that, we're going to add one more step, which is we're going to square them all. So this is going to become 4, 1, 0. I don't know why my numbers are disappearing. Okay. Oops. It disappeared again, and this one needs to disappear because it's wrong. Okay. What the hell? Okay. Well, anyway, so I squared them all. Now I'm going to average these. So 4 plus 1 plus 1 is 10. So they add up to 10. All right. So now this is the difference between population and sample. So population variance is just straight up averaging these. 10 over 5 is 2. Population standard deviation, well, either way, standard deviation is just the square root of variance. So it's square root of 2, which if I go back, say, hey, what is SQRT of 2? It is 1.414. So that's how it got that number. For sample variance, so when you average these, instead of dividing by how many there are, you divide by 1 less. Again, if you take an advanced probability course, there's a really, really good reason why it's 1 less. In this class, we're just great. We make it 1 less if the answer turns out a little bigger. That gives us a little more wiggle room. We're going to stick with that. So instead of doing 10 divided by 5, we do 10 divided by 4. So the sample variance is 2.5. And again, to get the standard deviation, you do square root of 2.5, which is, so equals SQRT of 2.5, 1.58114. So that list of numbers, it wasn't too bad. If you had a long list of numbers, I mean, remember, first you got to find the mean. Then you have to subtract the mean from every number. Then you have to square all those. And then you have to add all those. Then you have to divide. Then you have to square. I mean, it gets annoying really, really, really fast. So the people who made Excel were very happy by just putting those functions in for us. So anyway, cool. Let me just, how much time I got? Yeah, I got enough time to say one more thing. I'm going to say one more thing.